Welcome to Suffolk Freemasons free and accepted podcast, where we hope to inform, educate and entertain. Welcome to another edition of Free and Accepted Podcast, Suffolk Province's podcast service. Today with me is
Roger Corston. You nearly got that one out.
I did, and we're delighted to invite and say hello to the Provincial Grand Master.
Hello, how are you?
You're a bit of an old hand at these, aren't you?
I think this is my third one.
Yeah. And it's great you found the time to come speak to us.
Oh, good.
We've just had a PJK meeting, Philip Jervis K Lodge meeting, where we discuss a plethora of things, but it's the start of the new season. What are your thoughts for the province and the individual lodges?
Thank you. So, PJK, Philip Jervis K, the former Provincial Grand Master, he formed PJK Lodge, and the point of PJK Lodge originally was to meet shortly after the quarterly communications and explain to the provincial officers what had been going on in the quarterly communication. And I've tried to restart that tradition of the meeting at PJK. So we've literally just come away from PJK meeting where I explained to the all of the lodge officers what has come out of London over the last couple of quarterly communications. Initiatives such as changes to the book's constitution that are going on at the moment, changes to the way that new members are brought into lodges without the need for a proposer and seconder these days, and then also communicating what we as a province might want to be doing together to ensure that we're all on the same page.
Yeah.
Now, as you also know, we've got a brand new Assistant Provincial Grand Master is about to be installed. At the time of this recording, that's happening tomorrow. So it'll be in the past now. Paul Rackham will be Assistant Provincial Grand Master. Actually, as this thing, Paul Rackham's taking the photograph.
He is. We don't have one of him.
You see what his photography skills like, as well as his administrative skills as APGM.
And very shortly, his podcast skills.
Ah, yes. I look forward to hearing that. Anyway, so Paul's team is in charge of membership, communications, mentor, Suffolk Light Blues. Have I missed any out? I don't think so. Oh yes, and of course, learning L&D, Larry Ben Susan's team. Now they've always had a big job to do, but they've still got a big job to do. Freemasonry across the country has been in decline for many, many, many years, and that's no surprise to anybody. But just very recently, we think it's bottomed out. We think that the loss of members is slowed down to a point that within the next 12 months, membership of Freemasonry is going to grow. So we were talking about how lodges and chapters, which will become known as units, that's another thing down the pipeline. Watch this space, but it's just more convenient to refer to one thing when we're talking about two things, lodges and chapters. So we've been talking about how units can engage with the province. We've been talking about how units can encourage new membership, what their strategies will look like, and indeed, but most importantly, how the province will help them do those things. So we did a lot of talking about that at PJK just now.
Just to clarify, because people listening will go, hang on, this is a lot of change here, but a lodge will still be a lodge.
Oh yeah, lodges are lodges and chapters are chapters.
Just to clarify.
Lodges are lodges, chapters are chapters. There will be no chapter meetings in lodge meetings or anything like this. But there is this project called harmonisation. And hopefully you've heard, and many of our members would have heard of this thing called pure and ancient Freemasonry. But that's what we do, guys. We are members of a practice that we call pure and ancient Freemasonry, which actually is the 3 degrees, and the third degree includes the Royal Arch, the ceremony of the Royal Arch. So that is pure and ancient Freemasonry. You can't be a member of a chapter without being a member of the lodge. And we are all Freemasons, so we are recognising that that one's Masonic journey is rendered complete by being exalted to the Royal Arch. Now, we're not necessarily here to talk about harmonisation or necessarily about the Royal Arch just now, but we are recognising, and we would like our members to recognise, that we are all Freemasons. And when I talk about work done in the province, I'm not just talking about lodges, I'm talking about chapters as well. So to be inclusive, if that's the right word, we refer to units, because it means both of them.
And you did mention earlier about come into the orders and be proposed for seconding. That's all changing in the chapter, I believe.
Well, it started off with chapter, and it makes a lot of sense to say, well, why do I need a proposer and a seconder into the Royal Arch if I've already been proposed and seconded into craft Freemasonry? Why go through that again? So the Royal Arch very recently adopted the idea that you only needed to be sponsored into the Royal Arch. You'd still have to, the chapter, and we're going to go on and say the lodge in a minute, but the chapter would still need to check you out, make sure that you're a right fit for their chapter and vice versa. And they'd still need to ballot upon that potential member joining their chapter. And when that was adopted by Supreme Grand Chapter, United Grand Lodge looked at it and thought, actually, that's not a bad idea for us as well. And on the point of harmonisation, why on earth would we have two different procedures within the same organisation if we are one organisation? I had a really interesting thing the other day. I'm doing a lot of work in my proper job, my grown-up job as a solicitor. We're doing, directors of the firm, we're doing a lot of leadership training because we've got some succession planning coming up in the future. And I heard a really interesting comment on one of the leadership podcasts I was listening to that said, culture is the way we do things. That's the most simple explanation of what is culture. It's the way we do things. And organisations clearly probably want to have one culture, a unified culture. So if you have one culture, you can't have two different things or multiple ways of doing the same thing and profess to have one culture. And I think that applies a lot of what we're talking about in harmonisation and the use of the word units and all these people worrying about what that might actually mean. What it actually means is we've got one culture. We do things in one way. And the way we do things in, as I said to my partner, she says, "You going out tonight doing Masons?" Yes. She said, "Was it red book or blue book?" That's our language. So actually what we're saying is it's red and blue book. You know, we have the culture of the red book is the same as the culture of the blue book.
And it's good to, as you say, align these two. And it will take time. People are resistant to change, aren't they?
Yeah.
But sometimes change is good. And without the changes we've had recently, our decline in numbers may have continued.
Well, without change, you'll get left behind. Full stop. I mean, and you can do aggressive change, you can do unpleasant change, you can do negative changes, but the changes we're trying to encourage, implement, introduce, and sometimes drag kicking and screaming, I get that, but those changes are there for good reasons, because if we don't keep on the front foot, if we're not communicating to our members and our potential members in the way that the rest of the world is communicating with the rest of the world, we will get left behind. Anyway, actually, I was going to say we can move on from that, but I'm going to use that as a segue into talking about the new website, because we've done a load of work over the summer. A lot of you can mention Mark, because I don't want to embarrass myself and miss anybody out, but it's within your communications team, the work that's been done on the website, which is very much a landing page for anybody who comes across or visits our website. They will learn a little bit about what it is to be a Freemason and what it is to be a Suffolk Freemason, and it will direct them and invite them to express an interest in joining if that's what their interest might be. But then there's a members only section within the website where much more relevant and up-to-date information about what's happening at particular lodges. I think I know you can see the yearbook within the website, and I hope and I expect that to be a real success, and that's at Suffolk Freemasons with an S at the end, suffolkfreemasons.org.uk.
That is,
so when you go in there as a member, do you have your unique number?
You will register. You can register it. You say your password, and
that's the other way.
Yeah,
and it's a really good site. And there'll be checks and balances in place. But what we want is for people who are members to go in there and have confidence, see what's there. But really, there's nothing secret in that member section, really.
No, not at all.
But we've also got the private Facebook page that's been launched, but we've got the public Facebook page, we've got LinkedIn. So these are our connections with our members and also our communities, which helps to link in community engagement. So there's loads going on.
There is indeed. And that is what we were talking about, the PJK just now. We mentioned the membership bit earlier on. And so Paul Rackham's team, I mentioned earlier, membership, learning and development and so on. That's balanced by Ralph Robertson's team. As APGM, he's in charge of the visiting officers, charity, almoner, I'm sure I've missed one out, but he's in charge of the other half of the collared officers that aren't looked after by the deputy Provincial Grand Master. That's the sort of more, shall I say, professional side. There's the secretary operation. Yeah, the secretary, the treasurer, the chaplaincy, the DCs. That's it's more, I guess, internal management rather than the external stuff.
Yeah. Now, in addition to PGM, closer links to London for your role.
Yeah,
you've said. You've also taken on another role.
Yeah, I have. So just before I move away from Ralph, so we set out the stall for what Ralph's team are going to be looking at. So everybody will have come away from today's PJK meeting with an idea of what the year ahead looks like for Suffolk Freemasons. And one thing I had to say to the brethren assembled was that the role of Provincial Grand Master and Grand Superintendent is, I think, unique within Grand ranks or active Grand Officers, as being the only England, that's the, in brackets, Ing, Grand, is a Grand rank, Ing, UGLE Grand rank, whose job is in the province. It's to lead the province. So I very much see the job of PGM and Grand Superintendent as a bridge between UGLE, London, and our province, Suffolk. And what I said just a moment ago to the chapter at PJK is, in Suffolk, I'm the London representative, and in London, I'm the Suffolk representative. And that's very much how I see my role evolving over the next year and so on. And within my duties as a Grand Officer of UGLE, I had the privilege and honour of being received a telephone call from John Thompson, the Assistant Grand Master, the other couple of months ago now maybe, who invited me to become the chairman of a new working party or committee, which is to be known as the Armed Forces Committee. The UGLE has long been a supporter of the Armed Forces Covenant. The Duke of Kent himself signed the covenant some time ago, but this year we were awarded the Gold Award. And off the back of that, we thought it would be a great idea to form an Armed Forces Committee, so to formalise and to work out the way in which Freemasonry Universal, can support our armed forces. And I have the honour and privilege of chairing that committee.
Well, that's the way forward on that, because we need to encourage ex-service people to consider joining, because once they leave the forces, there's a big hole for them.
It can be.
And when they join Freemasonry, they suddenly find that comradeship, family that they sometimes lose.
And there's police service, there's the ambulance, fire services, all these
now, that's a really
bodies.
Point, Mark, because one of the questions I did ask the Assistant Grand Master is, why are we focusing on the armed forces? Why not these other, you mentioned the police and the other blue lights, and there are other organisations that could use our support. And the answer is actually because the armed forces have this covenant system, and they're very well set up for working with mutual third-party organisations. And you said that, Roger, you said it's a great way of getting new members. That could be, and I'm sure will be, a positive side effect, consequence of supporting the armed forces, but it will be more than just us getting members of it. It's about us generally helping the armed forces. There's homelessness problems, transition, civilian lifestyles. There's no end of ways in which we can support them. How and what we had to do will be worked out in due course.
Well, obviously, I mean, we're not doing one this year, but we've had the garden party with the
Not Forgotten.
Yeah. And when we go around there talking to some of the guys, the stories that they come out, and some of them some guys are lost. Some guys, this is
well, there's a lot of homelessness within the ex-forces community. There's a lot of mental health challenges, but it's not all down. No, as you've said, there's also a lot of potential purpose for Freemasonry, and they can help us, we can help them, and it all fits with community engagement with armed forces.
I think what you're touching on is not the fact you remember, is how we can contribute and make a positive impact on some of these groups as well.
Yeah.
PGM, I cannot believe the time. Thank you very much for your time this morning. It's been a long day for you. I know you've got to go back to work.
I've got to go back to work, and I've got to wait for Paul Rackham to finish his podcast. We heard a squeak a minute ago. That was him getting out of his chair, wasn't it?
He's getting nervous. You can sit over and watch him. For the time being, please.
The bleep machine.
For the time being, thank you very much.
All the best.
Thank you for joining us on another free and accepted podcast. Please like and subscribe to our Suffolk Freemasons YouTube channel.